suppose. So I think
I even heard that matoke is being seen as an alternative to all these pastas and stuff we eat in the West. Could I ask you about the role of foreign affairs in this? Because you represent Uganda in Europe. What role does foreign affairs play?
Well, of course, we need to enhance the trade and investment, but also the transfer of technology, the skills as well. So what we do is, together with the NABC, Arne is there to testify to that. Yeah. We organize trade missions, in and outgoing trade missions to and from. We have, of course, the very famous program, The Best Farmers. Josfat is also in the studios, who I missed this year because of COVID. The Best Farmers have not been able to come to the Netherlands, but they have been coming for the last 5 years. And we meet with them, we follow up for them. So it's very important to actually engage with potential investors, and that we do through Rabobank Foundation, we do through whatever means we get in order to bring people together. And we answer the questions, we try to get joint ventures. We just recently, in March, which was the last big forum or conference we had in Uganda, we had the Uganda EU Business Forum, which brought together 700 people in Munyonyo. So that was quite a successful conference.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Thank you for all your support during the years in building up this conference and having a hybrid TV show now. Arne Doornbal, a Dutchie with Ugandan connections as well, and representing the NABC. First of all, the NABC, what is it you exactly do?
Yeah, so basically we represent 250 Dutch companies, multinationals, bigger ones, also the smaller ones, which have an interest in doing business in Africa. And we do promote African countries, of course, including Uganda, as an interesting business destination. Mm-hmm. We believe really the private sector can drive economic growth. So the negative image about Africa and about countries in the region should change. And, you know, we present it. And we have several means of that. We organize also large business conferences when it's non-COVID time. And then we literally take groups of entrepreneurs to African countries on trade missions.
You have a video? Maybe we can play it and then you can tell us something about it.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. This was actually in February this year, also here in Amsterdam. It was the last big conference the NBC organized before COVID cancelled the rest of our agenda. We annually will organize Africa Works, which is like the largest business conference here in the region, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg. This was about Congo-Brazzaville. Which shows that we can have the ability of bringing large groups of people together, business leaders, and then we give a platform to, in this case, Congo-Brazzaville, but we've been doing that for many other countries. We had the president of Mozambique visiting a couple of years ago. There was also a business conference, so we're still waiting for His Excellency Museveni to come and we'll organize a nice business conference.
Well, let's ask Her Excellency the Ambassador, what are the chances of the president coming to visit? Or, all jokes aside, how big is the potential? If you see that 1 billion new Africans will be born between now and 2050, how big is the market potential of the continent, and especially Uganda?
Well, I think the sky is the limit, as I always say, because if you're a serious business person doing business in Europe, and you're looking for expanding your business, please do come to Africa, because I believe that's where the potential really is. If you're good, if you're professional, you have a nice group of people called Ugandans in a fertile land, what prevents you from not taking the opportunity? Yeah. So I think it's endless, and we need a lot. And what we need, of course, are skills, transfer of technology. We need, of course, also access to finance. So all of this, I think, with Dutch partners, we can form these very, very nice joint ventures.
But then the Dutch are always quite honest, sometimes too honest, and then they'll say, how is the infrastructure? Is there energy? But how is the URA dealing with me and my business? What do you have to say when it comes to those questions? Like, are there tools for, let's say, the Uganda Revenue Authority or other fields of government that can support people who want to invest in Uganda?
No, definitely. I think the Uganda Revenue Authority actually has programs and their structures of taxes, but I think Irene will tell that herself. Yeah. That will make it even attractive. Like if you are starting a hotel or a lodge in a park, your equipment, etc., will be exempt from taxes. Yeah. So there will also be tax holidays on certain for certain companies, for certain sectors. Of course, I do tell people honestly, we do have problems. Yes, it may be that sometimes you may not have water, sometimes you may not have electricity, but we're working very, very hard in improving the supply of electricity, as you know. There are many.
I think we should go to the Uganda House and just see what's going on there, because we have a raving reporter who's also an author, a motivational speaker, and a very proud Ugandan who lives here in the Netherlands, Kenneth Muyengo, coming live from the Uganda House in Amsterdam. He's keeping us up to date with what's happening on social media and with questions from viewers. Brother Kenneth, take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. Those joining from home, join the conversation on the table using the hashtag #GrowUganda. And we will pick up your comments, views, and questions and bring them in on the table. Listening to the conversation that's going on, the numbers obviously represent big business. The Netherlands has an embassy in Kampala. Uganda does not have an embassy in the Netherlands. I wonder why.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Your Excellency, but this is one that you have to answer.
No, that's a great pleasure. As I stated before, we have a fantastic relationship with the Netherlands. And in 2002, the president wanted me to open the embassy in The Hague. But unfortunately, due to budgetary constraints, it has not been possible to open the embassy there. So that is the reason why I have to handle the Netherlands from Brussels. But the Netherlands is very important, as I already stated, for agriculture. But we also have lots of NGOs that are operating in Uganda, doing very well and providing assistance at grassroots level. We have, of course, facilities such as the SDG facility that is provided by the Netherlands, which I think is also something that investors, potential investors can make use of. By having an embassy in the Netherlands, we could actually maximize the potential that is out there. We have much more frequent interactions with the people of the Uganda-Netherlands Business Convention, but also with, of course, potential investors, and we can encourage them to come to Uganda.
Thank you.
And that is sometimes what you need is a face-to-face interaction, which is not always possible now.
Yeah, and we do it through Zoom. And in Kampala is Mr. Josephat Biaruanga. He represents the Dutch embassy in Uganda. And I was speaking to Arne earlier about the role of the NABC. And I would like to hear from you, sir. Is there a particular field in which the Dutch and Ugandan economies are a good match? First of all, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, yes, there is a very good match that the Netherlands as a country has with Uganda in terms of the agricultural sector, which I think holds a very, very enormous and great opportunities, especially in the different value chains that we see in the country. The agriculture here in the country of Uganda is the engine of growth. And looking at the Netherlands, which also is very strong in the agriculture, and I think there is a lot in common that they share. So the Netherlands here supports, in Uganda, supports the agribusinesses. Looking at the dairy, the Netherlands is supporting the dairy sector here. There are very many opportunities within the dairy, right from the genetics, you go through the feeds, you go through the knowledge management. All those are opportunities, and I think they can create jobs and incomes for people here. And there are also opportunities that the Dutch private sector can, take advantage of. In the tourism sector, it's the same thing. There are very many opportunities that we see, and the Netherlands as a government, the Netherlands as an embassy is trying to promote so that we harness, we unlock the barriers that are there within the tourism sector, so that we can create more jobs, we can create more incomes, and we add more value to the tourism sector. For the health sector, it's the same thing. So there are so many sectors that we think Uganda and Netherlands can work together and promote trade and investment.
Mr. Josephat, you are the best ambassador for Dutch-Ugandan trade ever. This is too good to be true. Or it is true. I want to know what Irene Mbabazi thinks of it. As the Uganda Revenue Authority, what can you do for Dutch investors when it comes to investing in Uganda? Are there tools that you can offer?
Indeed, the policy currently that we have as Uganda for this financial year is industrialization and also promoting agribusiness. What we've done there is the laws have been put in place to exempt the processing industries. We have also put exemptions on imports for the agro industry, and also looked at some of the items that are products of agriculture where value has been added and been made exempt or zero rated where they are exported. So this is to promote agribusiness in terms of refunds where VAT has been incurred or exemptions where tax has been put. So we believe this will go a long way once the farmers get to know what to do. We have a package for them, number of amendments in there to ensure that actually their businesses grow and they plant back their profits.
Yeah, and what do you have to say to sometimes the critical voices about investment climate is only stable when also institutions as the URA are stable and policy is clear and transparent, and it is not always transparent or clear when you come to Africa to invest, and it scares some of the investors. What did you say to that?
Well, to some extent, they could be right, especially where the laws are complicated and possibly the ordinary Ugandan or ordinary businessman wouldn't know what to do. In that area, we have partnered with some of the government entities to, especially our partners like Registration Bureau, National Bureau of Standards, and the other technical persons to know, to reach out to explain some of these exemptions that we have. Indeed, they are quite lengthy, and we want to see ways of how best can we shorten them? How can we reach out to inform them? This time, not from the URA side, but the demand side. What do they want to know? What is it that they want to do? So that once we get to know what the business is like, what the structures are like, then we can facilitate accordingly. But it is true, sometimes it may not be as clear as possibly the client would have wanted it to be. But we want to work on that together.
Mr. Dornabal, if you hear this, you have anything to add? Because you're on both sides of the river, so to say. You hear the investors and you deal with local government as well. What do we need to promote more of this, to get more investment?
In general, stability, peace and clarity is key. I mean, I do hear also that within URA certain things have been digitalized. There's been cross-checking. Nowadays, visa things are, also being done digital. So those are all steps in the right direction. I think that's something that has to be kept.
Mr. Josephat, I noticed an orange tulip that you're wearing. Am I right?
Yes.
So you have become a bit
You're
Dutch
right.
now. That brings me to the final question. Being a representative of the Dutch embassy in Uganda, you know the two cultures. How is the interaction of the two cultures? And be honest with me.
Thank you very much. I mean, I like the Dutch because they're really very straight, very honest. They say it the way it is. And I think that's a very, very nice culture. But they are very transparent. They do business very transparently. They really respect the time. They respect, what they do. And I think we have a lot to learn also from, from the culture of the Netherlands as well. But also the Ugandans, they are really happy people. They are people who are very receptive. They also are very good entrepreneurs.
What
really
can the Dutch learn from the
bring
Ugandans then? They'll give me that. What can we learn from you?
Yes, they can learn from the Ugandans. As I said, they are also very good entrepreneurs. In fact, the way Uganda is rated in terms of entrepreneurship, it is always ranked as probably the best in Africa in terms of entrepreneurship. But they don't go a long way to really build their businesses, to stand. But I think we are very welcoming people, especially when it comes to tourism. There are people who can be helpful in whatever you want them to do. I think there is a lot they can share.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody in the studio in Kampala, for your insights. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, the Ambassador, Miriam Blackso, and thank you, Arne and Annette, for joining me at this table. On to the next segment.
Champions League season has reached its peak. Are you ready for the ride? Two of Europe's finest football clubs will soon experience unrivaled intensity. And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. Hold on to your seats for the UEFA Champions League final on SuperSport. Experience every heart-stopping moment on GoTV Max. Live it, love it.
Nankubira simu nali mu nyumba.
Wangi
mama wangu
wangi
ono Patrico ne Zahara Toto owangu dakakadeke ensimbi kalamba okuva mu Momo Nyabo together.
Wangama nti owangu dakakadde. Nentandika okubavuma.
neyanzegere tonsiba.
Gwetogenda kuwa fetukuwa.
Nze sinze tukwatanga kakadera sigenda kakwatako tonfera.
Ogenda kakwata lwampaka okatwala.
Ono ye Momo Nyabo together. Kozesa my MTN app oba nyiga star *5 okugula airtime oba bundles wefunira omukisa okwewangulira omudidi gw'ensimbi eziwerera ddala obukadde 5 buli lunaku nga zizo n'abaagalwa abo. Tosubwa akazannyo ka Momo Nyabo ku ssaawa 2 n'eddakiika 2 ez'akawungeezi okuva ku Mande okutuusa ku Lwokutaano.
This weekend,
sport has always been a neutral beat. The sports arena, a meeting place for differing politicians. Yet lately, there is a massive exodus of key figures from the beautiful world of sport into the dirty game of politics. But is it really for service or for the money? This Sunday at 10 p.m. on NBS The Score, we will be joined by a former footballer, Sulaiman Mutiaba, tennis president Cedric Babu, and celebrated sports journalist Dennis West Bossa.
Dennis Rukamodi Bossa Road Councillor to be Machinde East 3 Gabande Kansanga.
As we exploit what is pushing them into this rough world of politics.
Grace's Restaurant, Cafe and Business Center in Bukoto is now open and offers a wide range of services. Open daily for breakfast, cafe, lunch and dinner, private meetings, family lunches and dinner. We offer free stationery services like photocopying and printing and free Wi-Fi to all our clients. We are open daily and maintain all SOPs as guided by Ministry of Health. Located along Bukoto Jesus Road, Chirabo Complex Mall, Level 1. Or call 0702-225-709 or 0758-036-071 to make your orders.
Nenga waliwe kona
Watimi Express naleta mukono mu namba 11 naleta mu galwangu ya ino mpira ndizo kubiranga asala
samba ne MTN tabira owangule wano kusanyuka TV.
Yellow card olwokusambisa ettima ku bazanyi ba KCCA katino gukyali egole mu timu ya ball tuli ku kisaawe
namba msavade Mike Birungi azanyeko wano nation number 4 esawa yona
kya kunonya talent ate kunonya talent just tugenda kunonya mu talent
zemu wangu si Steven bagusibire kujja ne bagupa omusambe go baita Jonah Drico wambara city na kusimulanga muwanvu ne kujja
teri simanya teri offensive teri defensive kakati oli ali wakalaba kati yagenda tegeera kimbu kati game teri defense teri off erichi
minemu na papa loko mpira esa susamna mpira kutaka timba wano.
Showing on Sanyuka TV every Wednesday, Thursday and Friday at 4 p.m.
Samba ne MTN tabira owangule ekutusi wako MTN abawagizi b'omupiira gwa Uganda namba emu.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
AgriPort is buying and selling second-hand milking machines and milk cooling tanks and is exporting them worldwide. Yeah, my name is Diederik Voordepoorter. I started AgriPort 15 years ago. After I finished my agricultural education, I started to work for the world's biggest supplier of milking parlors and milk cooling tanks. And from there on I started my own business. Mainly I work with international traders, but I also sell directly to farmers. We do that worldwide, from Kazakhstan to Indonesia and from Zimbabwe till Norway. the main reason is the price. It's much cheaper than a new one, but they get the same quality as a new one.
The next segment we'll be discussing healthcare, an important issue, and I won't be discussing it alone. My new co-host is Dr. Joachim Chikomeko at the UMC, Amsterdam UMC, and you're also you're a physician and an oncologist in training. That's a lot. Thank you for joining me. Also with me is Martijn Gevers from Expandable Solutions, and via digital means we have Guido Geerts from Delft Imaging, and in Kampala, Dr. Jackson Orem from the Uganda Cancer Institute in the NBS studio with Dr. Jeff Otiti from the Uganda Cancer Institute. Thank you all for joining us in this discussion. About 95% of the population lives in rural, resource-insecure areas, while 95% of the trained healthcare workers live in urban areas. Tuberculosis is a curable disease if diagnosed in time, but that is sometimes in Africa at large, and also in Uganda. Affordability and accessibility to imaging are essential. I would like to discuss this with Guido from Delft Imaging. Welcome to our show, Guido. But let's watch a short video first.
Delft Imaging believes that every man, woman, and child should benefit from advances in healthcare, regardless of where they live. The company has a long history in medical imaging, and its headquarters is situated in a historical building. But don't let that fool you. Their healthcare solutions are highly innovative and forward-thinking. Through their intensive cooperation with international healthcare programs around the world, they have developed a great understanding of their practical needs. Tuberculosis is a major and complicated challenge that affects nearly 10 million people every year. If it is diagnosed in time, TB can be cured within 6 months. Combating the problem of tuberculosis requires a diagnostic solution that is affordable, quick, accurate, and easy to implement in underdeveloped regions. Delft addresses the problem of TB diagnosis by combining the speed and low costs of digital X-ray with machine learning and big data, therefore making screening programs more time and cost efficient. The innovative Card4TB software is designed to help non-experts detect and diagnose TB more accurately and cost-effectively. Digital X-rays combined with machine learning and remote expertise make Card4TB a valuable asset in the fight against TB. For the COVID-19 crisis, Delft optimized its Card4TB to triage COVID-19 suspects and launched this solution free of charge.
Guido Geerts, Delft Imaging, we watched the video. Could you tell us more about the idea behind the TB X-ray solutions?
Yes, hi Andrew, and thank you for having me in the show. As you mentioned, 95% of the people live in rural areas. So 10 years ago, we started with this containerized mobile clinic. So if you're not near a hospital, it's important still that we can screen this population. So in this mobile clinic, you have an X-ray machine, you have a small lab included, and it all works powered by the sun. So there's solar panels on the roof. So even if you have no electricity, you can run the X-ray for about 6 to 8 hours. And trying to reach these remote areas, we saw that sometimes you cannot come there with a container. So we also developed a foldable system you can put in your 4x4 Jeep. But even that, we had a request, for example, to go to a small village that was actually near a river. And for these kind of very extreme remote areas, we also developed a backpack X-ray. So you can put your X-ray on your back and you go into these remote areas and you can screen the complete population. Of course, this is only possible if you have also someone there who can judge the X-ray, and that for this reason we, as you heard in the small movie, we developed this artificial intelligence software as well. So it's a total solution.
Guido, thanks for your short presentation. I've been at your office and company for several times, and you have a big experience in Africa. As you realize, in Africa, we have a problem, scarcity of good trained radiologists, which makes it very hard for the people there to interpret these radiological findings. What for solutions do you have as a Delft Imaging Center for this? And in the video, I've also had something about COVID. It is a very recent option. It's a very recent topic. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, well, indeed, to solve this scarcity of radiographers, we started 10 years ago, developed at that time what was machine learning. Nowadays, we talk about artificial intelligence and deep learning. So we have actually a virtual doctor who looks at the image. So instead of a radiographer, this algorithm is trained to look at the image. And where, for example, 10 years ago, it would be very difficult to find this radiographer in the remote areas. Nowadays, this virtual doctor is the absolute best doctor to judge the X-ray on TB, on tuberculosis. And this algorithm we actually changed to look for COVID as well. And that's what we are offering free of charge worldwide because of the pandemic. So artificial intelligence will more and more bridge the gap, what you will see worldwide, between a growing population and scarcity of people. Okay. Specifically, if you look at Uganda, for example, in 2000 you had about 23 million people. Nowadays it's 45, and it will be more than 100 people in roughly 2050. And this is actually the same for the whole continent of Africa. As Andrew just mentioned, there will be 1 billion people more in about 30 years' time. And you have to educate your healthcare workers, you have to invest in healthcare workers. But with this growth rate, you cannot cope with it. So you need artificial intelligence as well to support the gap that will arise. You can't. It's simply too many.
And how sustainable is this? Is it a matter of delivering the product and then you leave? How sustainable is this?
Yeah, so we developed it in a way that it's offline. There's a small box you can connect to your X-ray. This works, everything is on battery, and it works very intuitive and simple. So we screened already more than 7 million people worldwide. And in Africa alone, it's in more than 40 countries. And this type of artificial intelligence that's now specifically developed for TB is now also used for other healthcare issues. For example, we are working now on an ultrasound device that will support the midwife with more information about young women. So in general, artificial intelligence will be a very important time.
Martijn Gevers, deep learning, artificial intelligence, and all free of charge?
Yes.
What do you say?
Well, what I can say about that is that at Expandable Healthcare, we design and manufacture mobile healthcare solutions in order to bring imaging and non-imaging equipment to the people, in order to prevent that they have to travel a lot of distance, and in order to improve accessibility to healthcare.
Yeah.
And we work with integrators, system integrators, and with the larger equipment medical manufacturers. And by doing that, we can deliver a turnkey solution in order to make an immediate impact for the people in Uganda and in order to increase the level of healthcare services.
Shall we take a look? You have a video as well.
Yes, please.
Reliable, sustainable, mobile and relocatable options.
Yes.
That's a whole lot. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, the product portfolio of Expandable Healthcare is actually divided into 3 segments. So we have the containerized solutions, the relocatable solutions, and the mobile solutions. And each solution is utilized in a different environment. So you can imagine that a container goes to a more rural and remote area. A relocatable solution serves the more urbanized environments, and mobile units are more into the cities, so to say.
Yeah, I'm interested because we are speaking from the European side. In Kampala, we have two very bright gentlemen who have been listening to what has been said, Dr. Jackson Orem and Dr. Jeff Otiti from the Uganda Cancer Institute. Any wise words for us?
Well, I think, as you know very well, in Uganda or in the developing world right now, we actually have what they term a double burden of disease. We do have the communicable diseases. An example of it is the tuberculosis that our colleagues are talking about. But as you introduced us, we are from the Uganda Cancer Institute. That means there's also another disease burden, which we call the non-communicable diseases. And the foremost of those is cancer. So balancing between solution that is going to be especially for the communicable diseases, and then, of course, also trying to look at the emerging non-communicable diseases is a very big challenge.
Dr. Orem, are you indirectly suggesting to these two gentlemen that they should incorporate their software to also cater for cancer screening, for example?
Exactly, that is what I'm trying to say. But the issue here is that this is a big challenge in that you must divide your mind into two and try to operate it in a way which will not favor one versus the other one. That is where the challenge is.
Okay. Kenneth, what's going on?
The questions keep coming in, and this one just came through. It says, we are delighted to know that such technology is available to help deliver quality healthcare to even rural areas in Uganda. What does the Minister of Health in Uganda think about this? Back to the studio.
Well, the Minister of Health is not here, but we have Dr. Jeff Otiti. What do you think of what Kenneth just said?
Well, I think it's very exciting to hear a number of solutions which help the local population or the rural population. I am a surgeon and a cancer surgeon, and I know with my patients, you need you need a lot of surveillance for them. And just imagine a patient comes from 400 kilometers away and has to have a chest X-ray done every 3 months in the first year, or probably for the first 2 years, and maybe every year. They need to have a lot of, maybe an abdominal ultrasound as surveillance for cancer after treatment. I think if you bring in a solution like this, it may save a patient, the distance they have to travel, the cost of traveling. You may pick up, recurrences quite early. Maybe in many senses, we don't have as much expertise up country. So they depend on the main, Uganda Cancer Institute. It's the main, the main cancer institute with the specialists. So if we can be able to pick up a lot of these, recurrences early, then the patient may be told to, to report early so that we could, help them. So I think this is really exciting.
Can you give us an idea? Because in Holland, we're having discussions about, are we going to have 1,000 or 1,500 ICU beds? How many patients does one doctor, how many patients do you have?
Well, right now in Uganda, a population of 45 million, about 45 million, we are 2 head and neck surgeons. I'm a head and neck surgeon. So that is one surgeon for 20 something million. So that's the kind of scenario that you have. There are many specialties, but certainly we don't meet, you know, we don't meet the demand.
Joachim, hearing him describe the situation in Uganda and having our partners here on the table and on Zoom, how important are these solutions that they're bringing to the table?
I think we are talking about basic health care. And I think if we need to really organize it the way it is supposed to be organized. Me hearing Dr. Orem and Dr. Otit saying it is still a problem to even follow up the people who is treating just because of the equipments that are not in place, that is a bit saddening. And I think with the innovations of these two companies, that we can go to the patient themselves, that could help a lot, because I know from Uganda that patients travel from long distances to just come to you for help. I think it would be better that they come when maybe the diagnosis has been made, and then you could that could save a lot of problems.
Yeah.
That is why we need intervention. And I had a small question, if I can.
Go ahead.
Martijn, how sustainable is this, and do you have room for local content? Because
yes, our strategy is based on adding local content, at least the option to add local content if that's required by the local organizations. And by implementing local content options in our design, we create a high level of acceptance by local communities, because they can add value to the solution themselves, service that unit themselves, and that makes the whole solution more sustainable in country.
Yeah.
And additionally to that, I think I have to add that it's important to understand as well that a mobile solution or a relocatable solution makes an immediate impact on the healthcare system. It's a fast track to better healthcare.
What is really important? What do you really need in Uganda? Because we can offer all the tools that we have, but we need to hear from you. What is essential?
Well, I think it is very important to kind of make sure that the local content is brought into the picture, but it's not necessarily the local content. There is also need for the local expertise. So that means working together is very important. It's not that, all these ideas are good, but you want, at the end of the day, things which are usable, things which are in the hands of the people for whom they are actually meant. So working together is very, very important in these innovative endeavors. In other words, collaboration.
Collaboration. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, what I would like to add to that is that local content goes hand in hand with technology transfer. So from that perspective, I think that fits the strategy as well.
Yeah, yeah. And Dr. Otiti?
I would say that we need to work with what we have on ground. So what you bring, in Uganda, we have structures, say health center, 2, 3, 4, and then you have the regional hospitals and regional referral hospitals. So whatever you bring should be able to work with the lowest health center. And usually we have, probably a radiographer if you're doing, digital solutions. And so something which they can handle. And then that can help the whole system throughout.
The base of the pyramid should be helped as well, and then we can move up. We started with Guido Geerts from Delft Imaging, who explained also the amazing innovation coming from their side. I would like to end this conversation with Guido as well. Maybe some last words after hearing everybody and their insights and their views. What would you want to say, Guido?
Yes, well, although we supply this artificial intelligence and nowadays with this COVID pandemic as well, eventually the most important thing is focusing on the education locally. So you need more healthcare workers, you need more midwives, you need more nurses, more doctors, and but also on the technical side, as was just mentioned, we give a lot of training as well, because eventually you can supply a solution, but it has to be sustainable.
Yeah.
But on the long term, AI and whatever we do is supportive, but it has to be something that can locally be supported as well. So education, technical expertise, very important issues.
Thank you. Guido Geerts from Delft Imaging. I would also like to thank Dr. Jackson Orem in Kampala and Dr. Jeff Otiti and Martijn Gevers from Expandable Solution.
Thank you.
Way too short in time, but very interesting topic. Keep on innovating and investing in Grow Uganda. In the previous sessions, we talked about easy access to healthcare for all. We could call that the basic bottom of the pyramid. Now we're going to talk about the highly trained doctors and the very sophisticated equipment, the top of the pyramid, so to speak. In this segment, with my guests, I would like to discuss our priorities and hear from Philips, Amsterdam Skills Center, and our other guests in Kampala. I'd like to make a bold statement first, and that bold statement is, isn't it more important for Uganda to focus on getting basic health care for every citizen sorted out before we spend money on expensive high-end equipment? I would like to discuss it with my guests here at the table. My co-host Joachim Chikomeko, Peter van Velius from the Amsterdam Skills Center, Roelof Assis from Philips, thanks for being here, and in Kampala, Dr. Jackson Orem, Director of the Uganda Cancer Institute, and Dr. Jeff Otiti from the Uganda Cancer Institute, all in the NBS studio. I would like to start in Kampala. I made a bold statement, and who am I to say this, but I said let's focus on getting basic health care for every citizen instead of the high-end stuff. Gentlemen, what do you have to say about that statement?
Well, I think that statement is what people thought a few years ago, and I think it led to a very disastrous realization that actually it is not true. As you know very well, our community is improving, is developing, and also getting more sophisticated. And we are moving from low income into the high income. And a good segment of the population is better informed, better educated, and the standard of living is also improving. And because of that, there is now a shift in illness towards the diseases that now we call the diseases of development, or the non-communicable diseases, such as cancer, hypertension, diabetes, etc. If you only emphasize what we already know, the communicable diseases, the tuberculosis, the malaria, and even the HIV, or those diseases that you would call diseases that affect people in the rural communities, then one thing that you are going to miss out is that you are not going to be catering for this growing middle income population. And the next thing you realize is that they are going to look for that kind of management or condition outside of the country. And by the way, these are people who in most cases actually are controlling a good part of the resources of the country.
Yes.
So if they're going to look for the treatment outside of the country, they are going to move with the resources outside of the country. And at the end of the day, the country is the loser.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for throwing away out of the window that prejudice that many people have had and still have. I think it's a great moment to go and watch a video that explains more about the Amsterdam Skills Center, which is at the heart of your argument of exchange of knowledge. And we will discuss that after watching this.
So in 2014, at Amsterdam UMC, we decided that we should build a training center. So we put together a team of 8 people from the hospital with legal expertise, financial expertise, construction expertise. And with this team, we met with Stryker. And together we could leverage our knowledge and our resources. So together we could build this.
So research says that when you're a passive learner, for example, a presentation, you captivate 5% of the message. As you actually perform the task, you capture over 70%. And if you perform the task together with someone else and together with, for example, a simulator, your ability to capture the information goes over 90%. And that's what all this new learning environment is about having hands-on learning to be able to capture over 90% of those learnings given to you.
We provide 12 operating stations with 3 classrooms with a total capacity of 250 people. We also have a Mako robotic training room with 4 Mako robots. And in just more than 6 months' time, we have trained more than 2,000 healthcare professionals from more than 50 countries.
We have interaction with working on courses and working with materials that are not available elsewhere, using state-of-the-art technology and equipment. That's a whole new way of teaching. It's so appealing that people are really willing to participate in this teaching from a teacher's point of view.
Our current training curriculum, for example, a surgeon, lasts 15 years, which is far too long. So together with the university, we are trying to build a very short curriculum of only 6 months to train essential surgeons who can provide care in low and middle income countries. The feedback from the healthcare professionals who have been trained here at the Amsterdam Skills Center has been extremely positive.
Yes, Peter. The Amsterdam Skills Center has an enormous amount of experience, and you also yourself have been giving training to surgeons in a short period of time. How is this all applicable to Ugandan surgeons?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Amsterdam Skills Center is in effect only started training at the beginning of 2019. So we're a medical startup, but we have a huge baggage and luggage because we were erected by the Amsterdam UMC, where also Joachim is currently trained by. And Amsterdam UMC is one of the 5 largest hospitals in Europe, and also has 2 teaching hospitals or teaching universities with it. So last year we trained 4,000 surgeons from 60 countries, and we trained it in the center that you've just seen in the movie clip. And what we're currently doing, and what we're doing not only for the people that train in Amsterdam, because not everybody can come to Amsterdam, as you can imagine, is we are building a scalable digital learning platform that is accessible for everybody around the world, that is free, that is based on open source, and where we combine all our knowledge about surgical training and surgical education in small bite-size packages that everybody can use.
Yeah. Joachim, how important is this? Because you are Ugandan, surgeon, a doctor working in the Netherlands.
Yeah. I happen to have visited Amsterdam Skills Center several times, and so as he says, it is equated to my medical center where I train. And I'm completely surprised how these people, you've seen Professor Bonya, is a very renowned professor involved in developing all this. With all his experience as head of surgeons in the Netherlands, I think this is something very great that we can also, if we could integrate this in the Ugandan system. That brings me to a very good question. We have challenge, that's one of the challenges, but how long does it take to train a Ugandan surgeon?
The basic degree for surgery, a Master's of Medicine in Surgery, is 3 years in Uganda. So that gives you basic training in surgery. Whether it's general surgery or probably orthopedic surgery or ENT surgery. I trained as an ENT surgeon. Then after that, you spend between 1 year or 2 years doing a fellowship in head and neck surgery. We are not yet into robotic surgery, so that is another thing you can learn.
Are there any challenges?
There's a lot to learn as you go on.
Are there any challenges, for example, with equipment?
Yes, certainly we have a lot of challenges with equipment, even basic equipment, maybe troublesome. I mean, in an operating theater, you should have very good diathermy, coagulation, machines, things which would make the surgery much shorter, harmonics, scalpel and so on. So if you have very basic equipment, it takes quite long.
I wanted to go to Philips because obviously they make equipment. And before I speak with Philips about the equipment, with your permission, can we watch a video first?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
We used to have to send patients to about 2 to 3 hours for them to get ICU care, and most patients who need ICU care are critical patients. So we really appreciate Philips for providing for us a state-of-the-art ICU. Patients with stroke, patients with heart failure can get adequate and fast ICU care, and it's really helped save a lot of lives.
Before Philips came, we had only 7-bed ICU and all the equipments, which was challenging in taking care of the patients. The ventilators were few, some broke down, and it was a challenge for us to help the patients breathe. But since Philips came in, we have a big modern ICU with 12 beds, with the new equipments, which has made our work easier.
The new machines that have come in are benefiting all the patients. All of them are working fine, and they are very reliable and very easy to troubleshoot.
So healthcare has improved for everyone in the community because we are a public hospital and we take any patient.
Before we had the ICU, the road traffic accident victims used to either suffer to death or we used to transfer them to other facilities. And now that we are located along Mombasa-Nairobi highway and we have an ICU which is so supportive, we are able to manage most of the patients. At the same time, we used to lose mothers due to reversible causes like postpartum hemorrhage, and they could bleed, they go into hypovolemic shock. But nowadays, we don't have that high rate of mortality because we usually send the mothers to our ICU and we support them.
Kijana ako na 10 years. Tukikuja hapa alikuwa hakuwa anasikia vizuri kabisa. Hakuwa anaweza hata kukaa. After tumeletwa hapa, amekuwa transfused na damu, nilisikia alipewa pint 3. But saizi anaendelea vizuri. Nashukuru sana juu ICU imenisaidia. Tu saizi maybe ningekuwa nimempoteza ama niko somewhere else, maybe singesaidika venye nimesaidika nikiwa hapa.
So Philips has really supported us in terms of management of our patients and giving our patients good outcomes. So we're seeing a tremendous impact that this ICU is having in our region.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's very important to, I think your first question about investing into primary healthcare or is also into to more sophisticated equipment. Like our doctor said in Kampala, it's important to invest in both areas. So non-communicable diseases are very important to manage and to make sure that we also treat those patients as well. And for that we need sophisticated equipment, but also trained personnel and also the sustainability, that means the maintenance. Doctor was mentioning about equipment which was there, even the basic equipment sometimes not able to sustain their work. Philips is not just a provider of equipment. Philips is a provider of solutions. All the way from primary healthcare, where we have developed primary healthcare solutions, we call it the Community Life Center, all the way up to district level, regional level, but also academic level to make sure that we bring the solutions, being it an MRI, being it a CT, being it a digital X-ray, to make sure that this equipment functions well, does the right thing for the doctors and the patients. And you could hear from the ICU patients themselves and also the users, we bringing solutions to the most remote locations in Africa. This ICU, which you just saw, are not the one in Nairobi or Mombasa. Those are close to the Somali borders. Really sophisticated equipment which are very needed in the areas which are there. So Philips provides the total solution, not only the equipment from Philips, but also the medical gases, the infrastructure, the training, the maintenance for long term. And that requires innovative thinking. Also innovative thinking from Ministry of Health, from Uganda, in, for example, business models. Yeah,
Can you be a bit more concrete? Because you're very diplomatic, which is honorable, but we want to get you in Uganda.
Sure. No, I think it's important. So we created a business model called Managed Technology Services. So instead of actually having to pay for all the equipment up front, we can say we can provide a business model where the whole equipment can be spread over a period of 7-8 years, where we provide the total solution, and whereby the government of Uganda pays
on strict installments every quarter. That has worked in other African countries, and I think that can also work in Uganda. And maybe just to add to that one, and I think our colleagues from Uganda know that, the amount of patients flying out of Uganda to seek medical care, and I've been looking at the numbers before I came here, I think they are in the tune of $100 million every single year. So why don't we invest together in Uganda to make sure that we build the right skill centers in Uganda itself, to make sure that the patients stay at home in Uganda and don't fly out.
Okay, skill centers, I hear it again. You visited the skill center. Can you tell me more? Because I wasn't there. I want to know, could you guys work together? Are you going to do something in Uganda?
I think it's very interesting because we already had contact about if Philips is involved in referral hospitals, we could build small skill centers in those referral hospitals to train surgeons. And it's a nice story that Joachim visited the skill center a year ago with a large delegation. And we have asked the delegation, well, can you tell from a Ugandan perspective what you would need in Uganda? And the presentation that they held was about keyhole surgery, so about minimal invasive surgery. So if we are talking about basic care or high-tech or high-technological care, I think I completely agree with Roelof. There was in 2015 a commission from the Lancet that looked at the burden of surgical care. And the global burden of surgical care is higher than the burden of HIV, tuberculosis and malaria combined. So there's a huge burden that we need to solve together, and we need to train 2 million surgeons in order to stand up to that burden.
Okay, continue.
And I think it's very nice that Joachim brought us together in the skill center, and we have, for example, small solutions in carry-ons where you can train keyhole surgery, which is it is an advanced surgery, and the people in Kampala also told us, well, we need more advanced techniques to keep up. And that advanced surgery we have, like in carry-ons, small box trainers where people in Uganda could train keyhole surgery, and those are internet-connected devices where you can where the trainer can be on a distance in Amsterdam or in your capital or wherever to train the people keyhole surgery.
Can I get a short reaction from Dr. Jackson Orem? Because we also asked what should Uganda do, and if we have Ugandan expertise on the Zoom, we cannot not ask you. So,
Jeff gave a very good background that the basic training for surgeons is already in place, and after that basic training, what is now required is actually harnessing their skills. And by having in place a skill center here, we will kind of be making those surgeons more hands-on than currently after they have left their training. In addition to that, we'll be also introducing to them skills as well as tools which they are not used to. And to me, I think that is the best way to go. And we will be more than happy to work with Philips to kind of see how we can set up these, of course, together with also the university
Amen, Doctor.
Hospital in Amsterdam.
Amen, Doctor. Perfect words for a discussion that was way too short and doesn't do right to all the knowledge that you have. You could go on for a whole day, but we have to keep it short. And the good thing of this is that Philips has been mentioned. The connection has been made between the Skill Center and Philips. Yep. And we have the linking pin, Dr. Joachim here. I would like to go to our raving reporter, Kenneth, in Uganda House.
For those watching from home and would like to continue the conversation, to network and connect with these companies that have been talking about healthcare on the table, we have got you covered. If you have a proposal or an idea, or you would like to finalize a business deal in the healthcare department, we have arranged an after broadcast session on the 25th of August at 12:30 Kampala time. Register at www.unbc.nl to secure your seat to network with these companies.
Thank you, Dr. Orem, and thank you, Dr. Otiti. Thank you, Roelof Assis from Philips, and thank you, Peter van Velius from Amsterdam Skills Center. This was such a fruitful conversation. I hope to see you again next year or between this year soon. And thank you, Joachim. We are going to continue this conversation, the segment about milk and potatoes, also very important.
AgriPort is buying and selling second-hand milking machines and milk cooling tanks and is exporting them worldwide. Yeah, my name is Diederik Voordepoorter. I started AgriPort 15 years ago. After I finished my agricultural education, I started to work for the world's biggest supplier of milking parlors and milk cooling tanks. And from there on I started my own business. Mainly I work with international traders, but I also sell directly to farmers. We do that worldwide, from Kazakhstan to Indonesia and from Zimbabwe till Norway. The main reason is the price. It's much cheaper than a new one, but they get the same quality as a new one.
We talked about healthcare, and we will talk about agriculture in this program. But the next 15 minutes is about a very important subject. We're going to talk about female and diaspora entrepreneurs, and I'm going to do that with my lovely host, Annette, back at the table. Thank you for being here. Ines van Oort from Linking Pin is here. Pamela Agnoti Peronacci is here from Asante Mama. And via digital means, Zoom Studio, in Kampala, we have the legendary Dr. Emma Naluyima from 1 Acre Unlimited, and she is there with Mr. Bradford Ochieng, who is the Executive Director of the Uganda Tourism Board. A great group of people. Who was your female inspiration growing up? Was it your mother, or was it an auntie or another family member?
It was pretty much my mom.
Yeah?
My mother was really the inspiration because she's always worked, and I said, okay, you know, I have to do what she did, but to take it a level more than that.
Yeah. You have a video. Shall we take a look at a bit of your video, and then we can talk about what it is you exactly do?
Let's see.
Buying Asante Mama product is just not buying any other product. Buying Asante Mama product means directly supporting and sustaining livelihoods of 10,000 farm families, and it also means they, at the same time, are actually providing you a healthy lifestyle product. We have spices for flavor. We have herbal teas. For example, we have a fantastic herbal tea called Moringa, which is a miracle herb. We have cocoa, which is organic, rich in antioxidants. They are all natural, they are all sustainable, they are all environmentally friendly, they are all healthy, and they all help the community.
Fascinating. Asante Mama. How did you get here? What's the story of that?
Well, it's actually a really long and fascinating story. When I left Uganda, I got married and I went to live in Japan. And every time I went back to visit, I saw the level of poverty. And I've always been really passionate about agribusiness. And I take, you know, that passion from both of my parents, who always, like, you know, told us, you know, you have to start something at home. But I wanted to reach out to women, to mothers. And I wanted to create something that they can use to sustain themselves, to take care of their families, send their children to school. So I said, well, I'm an entrepreneur in the diaspora. What can I do to link the two communities? And I thought, you know, the best way to do that was through a business, a sustainable business, where we can create the links for families and linking them directly to market. And it's not just about producing and selling raw materials, which has always been the case in Africa. I wanted to deliver to the market a product that is really, showing a real image of our country.
Amen. And you succeeded where many men have failed, because those bags of tea with raw material, they go out of the country and you have them packaged. You've added value. Speaking of the Lincoln pin, that is the name of your company, Ines van Oort.
It is.
How does that relate to what she was saying?
Well, I think that she is the example of the potential that there is. And exactly what you have done and are still doing is, I think, where there is a big demand for. So we believe with linking PIN that there's a lot of value in linking a lot of buyers, ideally from Europe, but it could also be the region, to a lot of agri-entrepreneurs in Uganda. There's plenty of great people that are ready to take their entrepreneurship to the next level. But it's often the case that they receive a lot of training, but not necessarily the access to the market.
Yeah.
So I think that by changing that perspective and starting with the buyer.
Yeah. To getting that access to the market, what are the challenges you run into, but also women in Uganda run into when they try this, venture out on this endeavor?
I think the thing is that we first have to overcome, to beat the status quo, because what many buyers think is, especially in the West of importing countries, that Africa has always exported primary commodities, which are not necessarily high quality. So we needed to show that we can produce and brand and package and deliver those products into the international market in a quality that meets the importing countries' regulatory and health standards.
Yeah.
So the challenge was to train our producers and say, we are just going to take the leap. We don't have any other choices. We're going to take the leap because we as diaspora entrepreneurs, we have accumulated the knowledge.
Yeah,
and we need to get that knowledge back. So we train the people, and the moment you train people, they will produce. So it was always difficult because, when you first present yourself, they say, products really coming from Uganda of that level? And I said, no, we bring it from Uganda. We do everything there, and I will want these products, the image to be in like any
other product. There are more people like you. Yeah. Dr. Emma Naluyima, a woman who is a superwoman, actually. We wanted to invite her to the show, but we got into a discussion, a quarrel with ourselves. Should we now invite her as a successful farmer or as a doctor? Because she's both. So we have just invited her for this segment, and we're happy that you're here. Welcome first of all, Doctor. There is a thing that I've seen you on YouTube about, and you're actually famous, the 1 acre principle. Could you tell us about that ingredient that has led to you being very successful?
Thank you. I divided my farm into 4 quarters. So the first quarter, I keep pigs. The second quarter, I keep cattle. The third quarter, I keep fish and vegetables. And the fourth quarter, sorry, I keep chickens and grow more vegetables. So it's all integrated. So one thing like the dung that I get from the pigs, I play with it with my science, and then I make maggot, or the larvae stage of the housefly. And then from there, I make earthworms that I'm going to use to feed the chickens and the fish. And then the water that comes from the fish irrigates my matoke. The other quarter is the matoke. And then the money that I use to sell, the money that I get from the matoke is what I use to buy feed for the pigs. And also the money that I use to sell, I get from the chickens, it's what I would use to also buy feed for the fish, or fish feed for the cattle. So it's integrated farming, one thing leading to another. There's zero waste on our farm.
And where did your story start? Because you must have been inspired by somebody.
Oh yeah, I grew up, surprisingly, I grew up in Entebbe. I was born, raised in Entebbe. But then in the natural setting of Africa or Uganda, normally in the holidays, you go to your grandma.
Yes, to
so
the
I
village.
always went to my grandma. I always went to my grandma for holidays, and she owned a shop. We also used to go at home to dig in the morning. We help her with the chores. So that's how I started. And then, of course, I went to school. I was lucky that I was taken to school. And what brought all this is that when I gave birth to premature twins, and I needed to sit home to look after them. So most of the things that I did were just to put food on my table. And that's how I began, to make sure that I have food on my table, I can feed my children. And the cost of living was quite high because I was eating food for 3 people, myself and the twins. And then making sure I have all food and in Africa, when you give birth, your family just becomes big. So I needed to make sure that the big family that has come on board is well fed.
So it was out of necessity. Thank you so much. Ines, with Mama Asante and 1 acre limit, unlimited, how could Linking Pin fit in? Because this exchange of knowledge and expertise, whether it's healthcare or agriculture or in this sense, where do you see chances and what opportunities do you see?
Yeah, well, I like to emphasize first that these are 2 famous entrepreneurs already.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't need any help.
Well, I think we need to help each other. And I think that there is a big opportunity definitely from the European market. I believe that there is more and more parties who are interested in buying from Africa instead of always focusing on Asia. And I believe that with the right resources, with the right training, and of course involving that buyer from day one, there's a world to win. So the role that we like to play, and we already had conversations, and I would love to continue them with you, is indeed to broaden the market and get more people in, but also on the side of the suppliers in Uganda, the people that you probably work with, they still need to gain a lot of knowledge on certification. There are so much barriers for them to overcome. It's very, very tough. And I believe that when we keep on investing in programs where we first make sure that they get to the right level, we assure that there are buyers, then I believe that there is a lot of opportunity for Uganda. Unfortunately, there is still too many people that believe that what comes from Uganda, what comes from Africa, is not the right quality. Well, I've tasted your chocolate. It is amazing. And I believe that we need to focus on the social branding, making sure that we promote the quality of these products.
Quality of the product.
Yes.
Annette, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. But I would like to ask Pamela, because you are looked upon as a role model in Uganda as a female entrepreneur. So how far have you helped those ladies down there?
Actually, I'm doing something that is, I would like to reach out to really a much bigger community, but I know that on my own as an entrepreneur, for social entrepreneur, it's not going to be enough. So what I've done recently is I started an agribusiness mentorship program for diasporan entrepreneurs, for Friends of Africa. And I am coaching potential entrepreneurs who want to start their agribusinesses and taking them step by step. How do you start your agribusiness in Africa? Because I do believe that we need more entrepreneurs to reach out to more people. We need more money being invested in Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The raving reporter is still in Amsterdam, in Uganda House. His name is Kenneth Muyengo, and he's here.
This is more of a comment rather than a question. She says, "This is great to hear of the wonderful achievements of these female entrepreneurs. Thank you for creating opportunities for development in Uganda. Keep up the good work. I am inspired to start something as well." And join the conversation using the hashtag #GrowUganda. Send in your comments and questions.
Thank you, Kenneth Muyengo from Uganda House. And I would like to go back to the odd one in this gathering, my fellow gentleman, Mr. Bradford Ochieng, who is the Executive Director of the Uganda Tourism Board.
Concentrate on Uganda. For magnificence, for variety of form and color, for profusion of brilliant life, bird, insect, reptile, beast, and for vast scale.
beautiful Uganda, lovely. But what are the B2B business opportunities for Dutch companies?
The Netherlands, the Dutch, actually, they take #1 spot. So of the 68 projects that officially licensed by UIA, the Dutch take the #1 spot, over 17 projects. So again, that's an indication that really the Dutch are out and they're looking for investment in Uganda. So for the diaspora, I think with the proper business operating conditions in the country, I urge you to come and take a number of opportunities that we have, all the way from conferencing preparations or planning through middle-range hotels facilities, through investment in the tour operations, through all this. We have a lot of opportunities within the tourism. It's, again, as I said, the value chain for tourism is so big, whether in transport, whether in ticketing, whether in conference preparations, whether in building conference centers, what we call convention centers for the MICE. MICE is meetings, incentives, conference and events. We have all these opportunities.
Thank you so much.
I call upon the Dutch, I call upon the European investors, the diaspora alike, and the Dutch as they have to come and continue to invest in Uganda. Currently, the perfect condition is here, ripe for actual European investors. They are welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bradford Ochieng, and also thank you to Dr. Emma Naluyima there from 1 Acre Unlimited in Kampala in the studio. I would also like to thank Ines van Oort, thank Annette for being my co-host, and thank Pamela Anyoti Peronachi for being with me here today. Asante Mama. I am inspired, and I look forward to hear from your business and stories in the future. On to the next segment of the show. Welcome back to the next segment, which is about food and nutrition, about potatoes and milk. Dr. Joachim, my co-host, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah? Luckily, we are surrounded by very, very smart individuals like Thijs Boer from the Hollanda Fair Food. Welcome to the show. Martine de Jong from Delphi and Karst Wening from Dutch Potato Organization. In Kampala, we have none less than Mr. Senyonyo Jamil from the Uganda Revenue Authority and Mr. Stephen Bayite Kasule from the Dutch Embassy in Kampala, Uganda. Before we watch a short video about Delphi, could you tell us what it is that you stand for and what you do?
Yes. Well, Delphi stands for, or used to be, the Dutch Extension Services. So I think 100 years ago, the organization or the institute was established to improve the Dutch horticultural and agricultural industry.
Yeah.
What you see is that in the first stage, we do a lot of training and education of farmers to improve their skills and knowledge. And that made the sector much more professional. And in the late 90s, the agricultural industry was so mature that the Dutch government decided that extension services need to be privatized. So we became a commercial company from the beginning of 2000. And now we stand for worldwide expertise on food and flowers. So our main course is that we know exactly how to grow crops and how to grow vegetables, potatoes, maize, beans, etc. And how we can improve the knowledge and the skills of farmers worldwide. To reach higher production levels.
Let's have a look at what you do.
Delphi is a renowned independent consulting and research partner in agriculture. Their core business is the development and implementation of knowledge and skills on cultivation of crops and the optimization of cultivation conditions. They have a personal and confidential approach that fits the needs of their customers and meets local conditions. At their farms, they develop key knowledge about crops, mechanization, automation, ICT applications, and monitoring crops from a distance. Internationalization holds more meaning for Delphi than exporting and importing knowledge. they implement knowledge locally.
Look at the thing, make sure that it's not too high, make sure it's not too deep.
Potatoes for crisp production, for Hollander Fair Foods, for Thijs. So do you use then the full growing period?
Through local offices or participations, they are responding to the local language, culture, and demands of their partners. This also generates new knowledge that can be applied in the Netherlands. A win-win situation.
A win-win situation, I like that bit. It can be applied in the Netherlands as well. But there's one word that I heard that I want to know more about, the value chain approach.
Yes.
Could you explain what it is you exactly mean by that?
Well, we as Delphi are experts on how to improve skills and knowledge on farmers' level. However, we can improve those skills and knowledge, but when the farmer still had to sell his products at the local market, the impact will be limited. And the professionalization of his farms will be also limited. So start with the market. Look at where is demand and bring that back to your farm and bring that back in how you do your production and how you do your cultivation of the crops, what type of inputs you need, etc.
Yeah.
So we start from a market demand and bring that back into the value chain and improve all actors in that value chain in their skills and in their knowledge to realize higher yields and a better performing value chain.
Start with the market.
Yes.
Thijs, where do you guys fit in this value chain approach?
Yeah, so indeed we are the demand, we are the market. So we need the highest quality potatoes to make the best chips or crisps. For this, we have to work with a lot of smallholder farmers in Uganda. And this is also the reason why we need Delphi, for example, to focus on the trainings of farmers, which is key for getting the good final product, which is crisps.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I could expect coming from Uganda, but crisps was new for me. I could also see that some people in the supply chain are skeptical, or like, what are challenges then to get those crisps at the right level? What needs to be done?
Yeah, the challenges are, of course, it's indeed a new market still, but which is very much liked as well. We have a lot of sales in Kampala and in the region. And what is mostly difficult is usually cash flow, and that is why we need strong parties to help us. And also we need constant supply of potatoes to make sure that we can always supply the supermarkets. And I think we are experts in this to make this connection. That's complicated, but it is also a lot of fun, of course.
Yeah. Shall we have a look?
Please.
Yeah. Great. Gosh, this makes me smile for all day. Okay, mango, guava, tea, sugarcane, but now we're getting potato chips out of Ugandan soil. How is the Dutch sector and government involved in this?
Well, as you may know, Holland is a small country, but having a very strong position in the potato world.
Yeah.
Our companies, we are not doing the business ourselves, but we are all Dutch potato companies are member of our organization.
Yeah.
And it's not by law, it's just by, well, we render a service for them. And one of the services is that we help them making it possible to do the business, because our companies do business with more than, well, around 100 companies, sorry, 100 countries in the world.
Yeah.
But until a very few years ago, Uganda was not part of that list.
Yeah.
It was simply not possible to do any potato business with Uganda. The varieties were not registered. It was not allowed, for a difficult word, phytosanitary reasons to import potatoes into Uganda. So together with the Dutch embassy, we have worked very hard to make that possible, and now it is possible. Some varieties have been registered. We need some more. We need some better varieties still. But I think without that possibility, it would have been very difficult also for Thijs, for Winas, to develop a good industry and to benefit from all from many varieties, but also from many inputs that are available worldwide, and it's important.
It's very interesting. Going to Uganda, Mr. Stephen Bayeti Kasule from the Dutch Embassy in Kampala. Yes. How interesting is this for Uganda, and what can Ugandan farmers really gain from this Dutch interest when it comes to the potatoes?
Yeah, well, I think the starting point is always the demand for potatoes. Uganda's population grows very fast and will double in the next 10 years. The economy also expands a bit, and the trends of nutrition are changing. So you have quite a lot of the middle-income class really yearning for the potato chips, fries, and so the demand is there. But the challenge is the production is not quite up to par. So what is happening is that the Dutch embassy is part of the process of actually stimulation of good production with the right knowledge, the right technical support, and we facilitate that process. So for us at the embassy and our food security program, we are very excited indeed, because we've taken this program from the days when there was no processing plant. So under the private sector investment program, we supported the Kisoro potato processing industries that will actually process the chips and the fries.
Yeah.
Now, after it was set up, fundamentally the issue of supply reared its ugly head. And that is how the Dutch companies come into the picture. And as you know, we are the boots on the ground. So the Dutch companies find it easier to come into Uganda to try and work together with the local communities and the smallholders, including the Ministry of Agriculture, to streamline the production. And right now, what we are doing today adds to that excitement, that right now we have a platform where all stakeholders come together to try and find a solution. And I'm very happy that Delphi is part of the equation. By the way, Delphi, congratulations. I heard about the contract from Maravio, and that gives us a lot of hope that you're actually going to bring that expertise, that knowledge, and work with the local farmers, introduce new potato varieties, and we see this taking off because the demand is not just on a national level, it is within the region.
Mr. Bayeti Kasule, I am surprised. Yes, I didn't bring champagne, but deals are being made in our show. This is fantastic. Martina, can you explain to us what's going on here? Deals have been made?
What is going on? Yeah. Well, we have applied together with Hollander Fair Foods, with Agriterra as partner in cooperative development, because cooperations is also a part of the whole value chain. With KPPIL, that is a fries factory in the western part of Uganda, and with 2 farmer unions to set up a value chain project in the potato value chain in Uganda.
What does that exactly mean? Because that was my next question.
And what it exactly means is that we will work in the next 4 years together with those partners to develop and to improve the whole potato value chain in the western part of Uganda, and see how we can set up a demand-driven value chain. So based on the needs of Thijs crisps factory and based on the needs of the French fries factory, bring that back to the farmers level, so to decide on what type of potatoes are needed. So therefore we need also the support of the Dutch Potato Organization and the Dutch Embassy and the Ministry of Agriculture in Uganda to bring in the right varieties, the right inputs, and to provide the farmers with the skills and the knowledge on how to make the right quantity, but also the quality of potatoes for the demand.
Mr. Seyoyo, what type of numbers are we talking about? I see you light up. Yeah. How big could this be for Uganda?
Oh, thank you for this program. You may wish to appreciate that we have 23.8% of agricultural
income captured under our GDP. You may also wish to appreciate that out of that, we have 72% of the population, Ugandan population, involved in agriculture, farming. And unfortunately, we collect less than 1%. So most of our agricultural practices are subsistence in nature. And in a bid to improve this, the government has amended her tax laws. And in the tax laws, you may wish to appreciate that Section 51 of the Tax Procedures Code Act exonerates agricultural farmers from penalty for under declaration of provisional tax. And this is all aimed at promoting agriculture because Uganda is an agricultural country.
Thank you so much. Kenneth, you're there again. Yes, let's go back to Uganda House in Amsterdam. Kenneth Muyengo.
Questions and comments are coming in from all over the world, and this is getting exciting. Use the hashtag #GrowUganda and send in your comments and questions on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we will pick up the comments and bring them in. Thais, we have seen the video about the potatoes and we've heard some things. But us being here in the Netherlands, I feel kind of left out. When are we going to have a test of these chips in the Netherlands?
Yes, Thijs?
Yes, of course. I will bring them to you. I will fly them over to you as soon as possible, of course.
Yeah, thank you so much. And last but not least, Joachim.
I've been working with Delphi for now, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And we have been able to train a number of farmers. Those that have already benefited. And I'm very happy also in this program to announce that we have another new program, another new project approved. And we are going to be training new farmers from beginning next month.
Yeah. Thank you, Martina de Jong. Thank you, Thijs Boer. And thank you, Karst Wening. And also thank you to our guests in Kampala for participating in this discussion. Joachim will be back with another segment. I'm joined by Wietse Haida from the Impact Cluster Uganda Dairy, by Johan Verhoek from the Impact Cluster Uganda Dairy, by Frank Buizen from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, the RVO, and via digital means in Uganda, Kampala, Mr. Emmanuel Tayebwa from the Impact Cluster Uganda Dairy, and Mr. Muhezi Deus from the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Haida, if we look at the name, Uganda Dairy Impact Cluster, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, actually, in the Netherlands, we discovered that Uganda has a lot of cowboys and cowgirls. And that brings immediately the connection between the Netherlands. As you know, we have a very strong dairy sector, together with the Ugandans. I mean, our cluster is a joint operation between 6 companies in the Netherlands working in the dairy chain. Cowdice for dairy feed, Blessed Dairies for genetic potentials, but also implementation of dairy projects. Ante BV for processing and for cooling the milk, as well as Uniform Agri, because recording of your activities in the dairy farm is key. Without recording, you cannot do any management. And finally, the ERS group is an educational group in the Netherlands on college and pre-university level to bring the knowledge.
Yeah, that's so much and it's so interesting. Shall we take a look at a video?
Sure.
Yeah.
The Netherlands has a long track record in developing a highly performing dairy industry. Most dairy farms in the Netherlands are family-owned businesses. With the help of modern technology, they are able to run their farm efficiently and increase production. One farmer, 100 cows, 1 million liters per year. To maintain their success, the Dutch dairy industry has developed a chain approach. Starting from selecting breed, animal feed, and milking method to farm management and distribution. The importance of choosing the right breed. Milk production varies between dairy cow breeds. Knowing the breed characteristics will help you decide if a certain breed will fit your needs. The importance of choosing the right feed. A balanced feed is a source of essential nutrients required for body maintenance, growth, and milk production. The importance of choosing the right insights. It is vital to understand how individual cows are performing. Data collection and analysis with user-friendly software help in getting these insights. The importance of choosing the right tools. It is crucial to select the right milk processing equipment in order to make products such as butter, yogurt, or cheese. The impact cluster brings a chain approach on optimizing results, which will reduce costs and enable an additional value to dairy products available for the Ugandan consumer.
Fascinating. Mr. Johan Verhoek, what's the ambition with this Uganda Dairy Impact Cluster?
We learned that just bringing feed solutions was not enough to get the best out of the farm. Cowdice brings feed solutions for a lot of animal groups, but we learned that dairy farming is a little bit more complicated. So we needed to support of increasing the value of the milk by processing, by using the right breed, by growing your own and better quality feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why we combined all the specialized companies and bring it into one solution to increase the revenue for the dairy farmers.
Interesting, because obviously we're here to see what Uganda can also gain from all these expertise. And I'm always interested in the Ugandan perspective. And what I like about being on Zoom is that we can get that perspective. And with us on Zoom, via Zoom, is Mr. Emmanuel Tayebwa from the Impact Cluster Uganda Dairy. We've been hearing the praise. We saw the video. But Mr. Emmanuel, could you give us an overview of the current status of the dairy market in Uganda?
As Mr. Wisa has stated, I happen to be one of the farmers who have been farming for the last 20 years in the Uganda market, and we've seen astronomical growth in the dairy sector, mainly because of the change, the paradigm shift, and the way people are thinking, and also a lot of training has been going on to promote the dairy industry, done internally, but also with a lot of support from the dairy cluster from the Netherlands, which Mr. Wisa has just mentioned. Just to give you an example, in 1990, we are doing about 490 million liters every year. Currently, we are at about 2.6 billion liters every year, which means we've been growing for about 6% every year. And with that, Uganda has now become the second largest exporter of milk in Africa. We've seen different companies coming into the country. We now have about 11 prominent dairy processors and exporters out of Uganda. We've also seen Uganda exporting a lot of milk to Kenya and other COMESA countries. We are even exporting as far as Japan and the Middle East. We are definitely growing very fast, of course with challenges, but suffice to say is that we are processing only 13% of what we bring to the market. So which implies that there is a lot of room for processing, there's still a lot of room for export, but on the other hand, the dairy sector is now currently contributing about 11% of the national GDP, leave alone the fact that it's one of the biggest employers. It also determines a lot of nutrition and food security in homesteads. And we look at and it's one of the 12 livestock, one of the 12 products that the government has involved in the strategic plan for the next 20 years.
Thank you.
So we are really on a good path, and we appreciate the dairy cluster from the Netherlands.
Okay.
In particular, the breast dairies, the Cowdice, and the Anti-Uganda for the big role they have played, and also other organizations which have worked with us promote the dairy industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Back to the Netherlands and back to Frank Buizer from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. This is a beautiful film story, a success story. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's indeed a beautiful story. I think it fits very well with the Dutch development cooperation policy. Private sector development is key in this policy. So we have a lot of programs available for individual companies that want to do business in Uganda and other countries worldwide, but also for groups of companies, so for consortia of companies like this dairy cluster. And I really like this type of project because companies join hands. It's quite difficult at the start because companies have their own objectives and you have to join them and integrate them and come up with what your joint solution is.
Could we stick to that for a bit? I want to be the positive Joe, but own objectives is something that you could interpret as some companies just want to make a big profit and grow, and other companies want to also see the companies in the chain in Uganda grow. How do you unite those different views in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's specifically the case that we integrate that the interest of Dutch companies doing business in Uganda, but also private sector development and steps in Uganda to become a commercial farmers country instead of just subsistence farming. But the main objective in this impact cluster and in all the development cooperation funded projects is local development. So that's what we've been targeting most, and that's also what's in the DNA of those companies, that they don't want to just make fast profits, but they're in there for the longer term. You know, Uganda is not a neighbor; it's a country far away. So, as a small medium enterprise to do business there, you need to have a long-term view, and that entails that you work on local development because you know the bigger companies are also better clients in the future. So that goes hand in hand.
Is there anything specific you need from Uganda to encourage this development?
Well, strong local partners is very important in those projects. But the companies that are in this cluster, for example, they have their networks and they have their experience in Uganda. And we've been targeting in the dairy sector mainly small farmers, and now we're trying to make the steps towards also targeting middle-sized farmers.
Let's go to the studio in Kampala, where we have Mr. Mwezi Deus from the Ministry of Agriculture. The president has been proud of developing Uganda and also adding value to Ugandan skill sets, whether it's farming or healthcare, etc. What is your take on this after hearing all the gentlemen speak about developing this dairy sector in Uganda?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I want to appreciate the efforts that have been put in, especially in the value chains of potato, dairy, and many others by the Dutch, who actually have been one time even the leader in our agricultural sector working group broadly. So, and to thank Mr. Tayewa. And they are doing quite a big job. But at policy level, we have got the highest policy guidance from none other than His Excellency, the President, whereby he has even issued the policy guidance and even written a paper about the vulnerable economy versus the real economy. And one of the key examples he fronts is the dairy subsector, the dairy industry. As Tayewa has mentioned, dairy is doing very well. It has been doing very well. Even when you visit the local supermarkets, the local content in the dairy is growing very fast. And because of the efforts that have been put in, like my colleagues have said, we have now had a crash, for example, in the milk prices, but also in the milk market. So now, what we need to promote more and what we are emphasizing at policy level is agro-industrialization. And in this agro-industrialization agenda, dairy is one of the key strategic enterprises that we have identified as government.
Thank you
and
very
we have noted, and we have noted even that with the dairy, even the milk that we are producing, we are targeting, even Tayewa mentioned 2.6 billion annually. We're actually targeting 3, and we think if we add value to high value products like Kasena and what have you, we should be able to stabilize the dairy industry. What I want you to share, I packaged here something for us when we get the opportunity, because we know that the Dutch have been largely interested in here, in dairy, in other subsectors, So even I packaged this so that you share it with them, so that the rest of the dairy potential and other investors in different value chains can come and join us here in Uganda. And the opportunities are very huge.
And you are welcome on our Zoom session next week on a Tuesday, where we will be discussing with the participants of this show. You are more than welcome to join us. And
thank you.
Yeah. And don't grow too fast, because soon you'll come to Holland and overtake us, so then there will be nothing for us to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Deus. We are going back live to our raving reporter, Kenneth Muyengo, in Uganda House in Amsterdam.
Thank you, Andrew. Those watching from home and you would like to network and connect with these companies, we have got you covered. We have organized an after broadcast session for you to network and connect with these companies. You do not want to miss this. We have secured a digital seat for you. Use the link www.unbc.nl to register so that you can have your digital seat on the 25th of August with these companies. You do not want to miss this opportunity to finalize whatever it is that you would like to finalize with them.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. What do you think, Joachim?
I think this is fantastic.
Yeah?
I'm happy to see how these companies gather together with the minister promising to do his best to help the company settle in Uganda.
Yeah.
And we've had Mr. Tayewa saying our biggest problem is we process 13%. I think that is also the problem why now we have a problem of milk prices, but we are going to work together, I think, with these companies to see how they can help us.
Great. And let's not forget the Zoom session where we can do more networking. Thank you for coming to the table and sharing your insights, gentlemen. And Joachim, I'll see you in the next segment. Finance, banking, very important. Welcome to the last and final, maybe most important segment, finances, of our show today. With me still Joachim, my co-host and savior of the day, but also with me on the other side is Paul van Apeldoorn from the Rabobank. In Kampala, in the NBS studio via Zoom, we have from DFCU Mr. Matthias Katamba, and also with us there is Mr. Biensi from the Uganda Investment Authority and Yunus Babuwaira from Housing Finance Bank. Welcome, gentlemen. To begin with the Uganda Investment Authority, what is the business climate like in Uganda at this moment?
Thank you, moderator, and viewers up there. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this to enable us give some information on what is happening in Uganda currently. I think my view on investment climate in Uganda today is that it has tremendously improved. We've improved a number of our policies. New policies have been set up to promote not only investment, but also trade. We have had a number of laws amended, including our own. The Investment Code 1991 was only amended last year, February 2019. So we have a new law that sets the pace for investment in this country.
Yeah, and what
we have had we've had the improvements in our infrastructure in the country, especially on roads, on power distribution, water networks, and all these, in my view, have contributed a lot to improvement of investment.
So that's the improvement. What are the cons? What are the things that you say, hey, come to Uganda, but we're still working on this?
Yeah, there are many things. First of all, we still have opportunities in our agricultural sector where our value addition is still, somewhere. We want to push it up to a level where we are exporting not only raw materials, but finished products. And this is true in many sectors. Government policy is very clear that we will no longer, as a country, export raw materials, but finished products. And this is true also in minerals, where We have a lot of minerals in the country, but we're inviting investors who can put in their money, but to do the value addition in this country. I think there are many things we need to do, and we recognize why we take that position. There are virtually about 3 parameters where we do very badly. One is how we access the accessibility of power and water, and the cost. We've worked with stakeholders on some of these parameters. The other parameter which makes us look very bad is the approval process for construction. Construction facilities. Again, that's another area where we're doing badly. The third area where we do very badly is what they call business registration. And there, we, as UIA and as many other stakeholders, we've done a lot of improvements through the one-stop center facility that we have at UIA, through a similar facility at URSB, through a similar facility in URA. And so there we are confident that in the next assessment, we should be able to do better.
Aiming for the sky. But in the meantime, a lot of things are working out, and there's reason to be very positive. I don't own a bank, but I do know that banks are allergic to uncertainty. Shall we ask Paul van Apeldoorn? Mm-hmm. You represent the Rabobank,
yes,
which is a very big bank. Hearing what is being said, what are your thoughts on the allergicness of your industry and in regards to Uganda?
No, I think it's exactly what you said. Banks are used to taking risks, but they don't like uncertainty. They need to work in a reliable environment. A lot of positives are there, but there are still things to work on, in sense because the policies are in place, but they also need to be policed. So we as banks, in general, we are used to take risk, but we need that reliability. What you see is what you get. And that's very important. And I think both the government, the banks, but also the entrepreneurs themselves can still work on it.
Yeah. Paul, we've been discussing agriculture and healthcare. We could talk about tourism more, but agriculture and healthcare are very important sectors, and I think the Rabobank acknowledges that. What are investment opportunities in those sectors in Uganda?
Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities because the agri-sector is important in Uganda. Uganda has the perfect climate for agriculture. It has very fertile soil. But I think where still the opportunities clearly are in the processing part of it, so in the processing sector. I think that has been mentioned, but I think if I look at still a lot of basic produce in Uganda is exported. So if Uganda is able to add value to it, that would definitely help Ugandan's GDP. That would help grow the Ugandan economy. And I'm convinced that there's a wealth of opportunity in improving the processing area when it comes to agriculture.
Okay, processing. Mr. Yunus Babawaire from Housing Finance, where do you see specific opportunities in those areas?
First of all, I want to thank you, moderators, for the topic today. If you look at agriculture and health that we've been talking about, these are basic necessities of humankind, and of course housing comes in as well, as shelter is also a basic need. And in terms of opportunities, there are lots of opportunities that will exist in both the health sector, and these are opportunities in terms of financing the health sector and also the agriculture sector as well. If you look at the contribution of on GDP for the agriculture sector, and also in terms of the budget allocations that are put in the agriculture sector and the health sector, we see that there is focus from government and has businessmen and investors, and also has banks and financial institutions. There's a lot of opportunity from the supply side and also on the demand side. So I see as a bank opportunities, but also has investors in Uganda and outside Uganda.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to go to our raving reporter, author and motivational speaker, Kenneth Muyengo in Uganda House. Kenneth.
Thank you, Andrew. There's another question coming in. The remittances of over 1 billion go to Uganda every year to families and for emergencies. There's been talk about redirecting part of these funds to home-based businesses and to startups that generate revenue. Do you as banks see a role in that process? Back to you, Andrew.
Mr. Paul van Apeldoorn.
Yeah, I think as banks, we do have a role to play in remittance. By the way, I hear it's $1 billion. I know it's $1 billion per year. So I don't think it's just used for emergencies and school fees. I think a lot of that money is already invested somehow, somewhere in Uganda. But maybe it could be better structured. So I don't think all the money is used for school fees. Because it's $1 billion is a lot of money. Also in the Ugandan context. But banks can play a role in remittances. What we do need to realize, and I think Matthias Katam already mentioned it, anti-money laundering, know your customer, these are international regulations around international transfers. And they need to be complied to. So they do create a bit of a hurdle when it comes to transferring money. But at the other hand, by using the banks, people are sure that know your customer, anti-money laundering is well in place. So I think the banks can play a bigger role in remittances, but probably my colleagues in Uganda are better positioned to respond to that because they have the Ugandan banks.
Mr. Katamba, at DFCU, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very important part, and banks definitely have a role to play when it comes to the process of facilitating money transmission into creating channels for domestic savings mobilization and trying to channel behavior, consumer behavior into use of funds for production and investment as opposed to consumption. So typically what will happen is that remittances will flow into the country for different purposes. That will be mostly on agreement of the user, the receiver, and the sender. So if the purpose is for fees or to repair that house for your old relatives in the village, that's what the purpose will be. So what we do as an intervention is promote the usage of group collective savings for investment, what we call investment clubs. And we work with teams in the diaspora, in the various diaspora, to see that people come together to create clubs and even encourage those here in the country to create clubs, investment clubs for onward investment. And so they can channel into, say, agriculture or post-farm gate work, at different stages.
Yes.
Not just the agricultural value chain, but different productive value chains.
Mr. Yunus Babawaire at Housing Finance, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Definitely, financial intermediation is a key role that banks play. And remittances is one of the key areas and focus areas that as Housing Finance we've put. And especially post-COVID, we need to ensure that we reduce the cost of remittance of funds to Uganda so that our diaspora customers and all other people out of the country that are sending revenue that's going to be used in the country to generate wealth in Uganda, we need to ease the process and we need to reduce the cost of intermediation. And definitely this will attract more funds into the country and also encourage savings. So as a bank as well, we do have savings and investment options and opportunities for the remittances that come in from the diaspora segment. And being a bank whose main mission and main purpose for our existence is to enable home ownership, definitely we provide a platform for the customers, especially our diaspora customers who send through remittances to Uganda, to be able to invest in property, in real estate, and we give them a forum to be able to get the best properties that they are in Uganda.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Van Apeldoorn, the remittance is about 4% of the total budget of Uganda. Yeah.
Or thereabout, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It is very important for Uganda. It can be used better, so better structured, I believe. And I think the colleagues in Uganda have mentioned the options that the banking sector in Uganda has. So I think if the Ugandans in the diaspora are able to even grow that 1 billion, you mentioned 2 billion, that's a significant growth. But
we all are, but
I can't judge on that
well,
as well.
It's not me.
No, but it is an important part of, if you look at the total GDP of Uganda and then $1 billion. Compare that to the total finance sector in Uganda, and you see that some banks have a balance sheet that is smaller than $1 billion.
Yeah.
So that shows how important remittances can be, and I'm happy to hear that the colleagues in Uganda take that very serious, and I'm sure that it will help grow the Ugandan economy and offers a lot of investment opportunities, but structure it well. I mean, I think it's now often used too much diversified over smaller projects. So if we are able to bring that in bigger projects for processing plants or the medical sector, then I think it could be even better used.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I would like to thank you all, Mr. Katamba, Mr. Babawaire, and Mr. Biensi in the studio in Kampala for your insights and taking out time to come and share them with us. I would like to thank Paul van Apeldoorn. Thank you for watching our 2-hour broadcast. I hope you gathered some insights or got inspired by one of the entrepreneurs in today's show. Maybe you even want to do business and invest in Uganda, or just come and visit soon. Know that you are most welcome. I would like to thank the team for all the hard work, and I would especially like to thank the Ugandans, the millions of Ugandans that wake up and go to work every day and that could help grow Uganda in the future. We can help in the diaspora, and others can help by investing in agriculture, healthcare, or even tourism by visiting. Keep your head up. Let's grow Uganda and stay positive.
NBS. Always. Up next. Brought to you by
Movit. All day confidence.
My guest today is the MP of Lira municipality that has been divided into 2 constituencies and a party president who was declared unopposed as president and flag bearer in July 2020. His party is one of Uganda's grand old parties that have steadily faded, some may argue, under the NRM regime. He didn't offer himself for the country's presidency in 2016, yet he had newly gotten into the position. Will he offer himself now? Have the factions in his party settled somehow? Is there any future for his party? There's not even one mention of a party amidst all the turbulence and ongoings in the Uganda's opposition today. I am Oscar Semwe-Amsoke, and this is NBS Face Off. Welcome to NBS Face Off, Mr. Honorable James Akena.
Thank you very much, Oscar. It is great to be on this program.
Yes. Now that we've finally got the distance, I think we could rest the masks and ensure clarity, as long as we maintain. So you were unopposed in the July contestations because three others who'd picked up nomination forms didn't return them. True. And at least has this exercise been amicable? They didn't return the nomination forms because they did not wish to return nomination forms? Or do we go back to 2015 when others that may have wished to return nomination forms were not allowed to?
No, in 2015, I think we had 8 or 9 candidates who participated. And you see, in the UPC constitution, you first need to go through the district conference. and the district conference involves leaders at the constituency, you could best say constituency and district level voting. Now, to emerge out of that one to go to the next step of the delegates conference, you have to have garnered at least 1/3 of the districts of Uganda in order to be able to go forward. So in 2015, I was able to garner more than 2/3, thereby not allowing any other candidate, the 1/3, to be able to present themselves to the delegates conference. But since it is a laborious process which involves elections at district level, in this round, we had some, you can say, difficulties, because it came at a time when Corona had come in. First of all, we were offset, so we were slightly late in the program. Then now you need to organize elections in 135 districts, where even during the process, there were new creations and new divisions taking place. So those were the issues which we prepared for. And following the guidelines which were presented by the Ministry of Justice and debated in Parliament, we were also able to contribute in the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. They gave us tools with which we can carry out processes which under normal circumstances would have involved people gathering together and having votes. So we did by resolution by circulation. Even though I was the only one who had returned the forms and paid the nomination fee, we still had to go through the resolution by circulation through the districts.
So formally it has happened, and the big question here is, has it been smooth? Have the other contestants accepted that they're out of a race?
There's still, of course, some grumblings, but this does not fully address the contradictions which we have in the party. But whatever the case, we have to move ahead. We have to prepare for elections. We have to participate in the forthcoming elections. So we are moving ahead. With the grumblings, with the disagreements, we're still going to move ahead.
We're going to look at that. I mean, the 2015 is significant, and Dr. Olaro Tunu, who I cannot call your fan, allowed you to pick up nomination forms well after the deadline. And he said if he'd not allowed you to pick up the nomination forms, then it would have been another area of protest for you. So right from that process, you had gotten it wrong. That's correct. And then after, there is a claim, and this is by the late Bossa, has talked about it thoroughly, written about it, that actually you ambushed the party, you overthrew the leadership of the party. And that's how at some point the UPC had 2 presidents. That all comes from 2016.
Now, I would disagree that the process was specifically opened to allow Jimmy Akana to take place, to take part. You see,
but if you pick up nomination forms after a deadline, then that has happened.
The process was under question and was in court. Because I competed in 2010 against Olaro Tunu. There were again about 7 or 8 of us on the ballot. I came second after Olaro Tunu. And this is where we had our delegates conference in Nambole. And at the delegates conference, I conceded. I accepted that I have lost the battle, but I told the delegates in 5 years I'll be back. Now, at that point, Olaro Tunu was elected for a term, if you follow the wording of the Constitution, not exceeding 5 years. By the time we had reached the end of the 5 years, there was actually no roadmap for the oncoming elections. So the roadmap was issued after the 5 years. And that is a matter which now went to court. The court pronounced itself on the 6th of May of 2015 that Olaro Tunu was a de facto president, which legal language is, yes, he can act as president.
It was like a stay, yes.
But he does not quite meet the requirements of the presidency. So therefore, in the process of having the clarification from court. There was a roadmap which was submitted based, I think it was on the 9th of April, 1 month after his term had ended, was when he issued a roadmap. Now, on the 9th of May, 2 days, roughly 2 days when the signed judgment came out, a new roadmap was issued, which changed the dates. Now, it is under this new roadmap, not the roadmap which was submitted in court, is when I was able to enter, because now you have changed the timetable. At that time, the district conferences were to be held on the 16th of May. In the revised roadmap, it was moved to the 30th of May. The delegates conference, which should have been on the 12th of June, was moved to the 10th of July.
So you got in on a technicality?
If we're to stick, I was, after the court, I did apply to take part, and I said I'm willing to work within the deadlines which were set. I was ready for the 16th of May, I was ready for the 12th of June, because I had been active in the party processes. It was not going to be like an ambush and whatever, it was the formalities to be done.
And the assertion by Dr. Bosa that you overthrew the election because you had 65 votes, he says you actually nearly physically overthrew the constitution of the election. You used guns, you made the Electoral Commission declare you the winner. That's according to Dr. Bosa. It's written, he's spoken these things.
The guidelines provided that declarations will take place at the district conference immediately after the counting of the vote. At that point, the returning officer or the presiding officer appointed by the Olaratuno Electoral Commission will, after the declaration, will sign the declaration forms where